Welcome to today's Explainer, folks. We are jumping right into something absolutely massive today. We're demystifying Shoshana Zuboff's monumental framework that exposes the hidden, behind-the-scenes mechanics of our modern digital platforms. We're going to step directly into the invisible architecture of our digital reality, what she calls the age of surveillance capitalism. And we'll break down exactly how everyday human experience literally became the newest raw material for a multi-trillion-dollar industry. To really get this, we're going to anchor this framework with a pretty intense metaphor from the author herself. Imagine this. One night, Zuboff's house gets struck by lightning and catches fire. As smoke starts filling the halls, she's running around closing bedroom doors, just trying to prevent smoke damage. She was completely unaware that the entire house was literally about to explode in flames. She was treating a total destruction event as, well, a manageable detour. And the crazy thing is, we all do this. We constantly fail to recognize entirely new, unprecedented threats because we're just so hardwired to understand them through the comfortable, familiar lens of our past experiences. So, how do we actually combat this blindness? Well, we need to extract the core vocabulary from this foundational text. To put it simply, we need new words to describe a completely new reality. We're going to build a clear step-by-step framework together today. This is going to help you clearly see the very real economic engine humming along right behind the screens of your smartphones and smart homes. Here is our roadmap for the explainer. We'll be moving through 5 core areas: encountering the unprecedented, the end of the aware home, discovering behavioral surplus, the means of behavioral modification, and finally, a coup from above. All right, let's dive right into Section 1, Encountering the Unprecedented, and look at the illusion of the familiar. Think back to the Taino indigenous people. When they first saw armored Spanish conquerors arriving on their shores, they completely lacked the historical context to understand what that threat was. So what do? They welcomed them as gods. And just like they couldn't comprehend the reality of those soldiers, we automatically misinterpret today's new economic logic because we keep using comfortable, outdated categories. Why does this actually matter to us? Because when we use old vocabulary to describe modern tech giants, like throwing around 20th century terms such as monopoly or standard privacy violations, we totally blind ourselves to the core mutation of capitalism that's actually taking place. It ends up normalizing a highly abnormal extraction of our private lives. Moving right along to Section 2, the end of the aware home. Let's look at a concrete example of the shift in digital power. This comparison is just wild. It perfectly illustrates the shift. Back in the year 2000, engineers at Georgia Tech envisioned what they called an aware home. It was a completely closed loop. Sensors fed data to a wearable device controlled exclusively by you, guaranteeing total privacy. Now, fast forward to 2018 with the Google-owned Nest thermostat. That device is networked, your data is instantly uploaded to corporate servers, and get this, you are forced to agree to roughly 1,000 third-party contracts. And if you refuse, your device might literally lose functionality. We're talking potential real-world consequences like frozen pipes or failed smoke alarms, just because you wanted to keep your data private. So the crucial takeaway here is that we're being forced into a Faustian compact. We are essentially trading away our fundamental privacy just to have a functioning home, or really just to participate in modern society. These connected smart devices, they don't offer a traditional producer-consumer relationship at all. The device itself is merely the hook. The actual business model is a one-way extractive operation. Giving up your data has become the mandatory price of admission for basic social participation. Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, Discovering Behavioral Surplus, where we pinpoint exactly what this new raw material is. We really need to define the overarching system first. Surveillance capitalism is essentially a rogue mutation of capitalism. Think about it like this. Industrial capitalism historically claimed nature, things like land, trees, oil, as free raw material. Well, surveillance capitalism unilaterally claims our everyday waking human experience as a free resource. It's just out there to be scraped, computed, and endlessly monetized. And what exactly are they extracting? They call it behavioral surplus. When you use a search engine or a smart thermostat, sure, a little bit of that data is used to actually improve the product for you, but the vast, vast majority of it is surplus. This includes the dark data of our inner lives. We're talking our moods, our locations, the exact speed at which you scroll, or honestly, even the specific typos you make on your phone. All of it is just scooped up and fed directly into massive machine intelligence factories to fabricate predictive models of exactly what you will do next. Think of it as a literal automated assembly line called the rendition process. First, these platforms extract your private raw experience. Step 2, they translate that raw experience into usable behavioral data. Third, they fabricate that data into prediction products, which are incredibly accurate models of your future behavior. And finally, step 4, they trade these predictions in what the author cleverly calls behavioral futures markets. They are literally selling the certainty of your future actions to business customers who are waiting to sell you things. Now, you've probably heard the old saying, if the service is free, you are the product. Well, actually, scratch that. According to Zuboff's framework, that is fundamentally incorrect. You are not the product. You are the virgin land being stripped mined. The product is the prediction of your behavior, and the customer is the business buying that prediction. You and I, we're simply the raw material. Okay, section 4, the means of behavioral modification. This is where things escalate from predicting behavior to actively shaping it. This is where it gets genuinely wild. Because of intense competition for revenue, merely predicting your behavior wasn't enough anymore. The goal of these platforms shifted. It's no longer just about sending you targeted ads based on your past clicks. Now, the goal is to actively nudge, coax, and herd your physical and emotional behavior toward a profitable outcome. We actually saw this happen when Facebook ran those massive, unconsented psychological contagion experiments, just to see if they could alter users' real-world moods or voting habits. We also saw it in Pokemon Go, a game incubated at Google, by the way, which literally herded physical human bodies through city streets toward fast food restaurants that paid for the foot traffic. This evolution ushers in what the author calls instrumentarian power. Sounds super academic, right? But really, it is an invisible, remote control over society. It replaces our individual freedom and autonomy with guaranteed commercial outcomes. And it acts entirely through the digital infrastructure we use every single day, our phones, our cars, our homes, subtly shaping our behavior to make sure we click, buy, or act exactly as those behavioral futures markets demand. Remember when we talked about the danger of old lenses? We absolutely cannot use the 20th century lens of totalitarianism to understand this new threat. Totalitarianism operated through violence, terror, and demanding ideological possession of your soul. Instrumentarianism is a totally different beast. It doesn't care about your soul, your political beliefs, or your pain. It is profoundly indifferent to your motives. It only cares about calculating and modifying your observable actions so it can transform the market. It's control, sure, but without the terror, which is exactly why it's so incredibly easy for us to just quietly accept. And finally, we hit section 5, a coup from above, exploring the ultimate societal cost of all of this. Zuboff argues that this entire digital system forces us into a hive mind. To guarantee these profitable outcomes, the platforms use relentless social pressure. They exploit our very natural human empathy and our deep need for connection. Just think about the endless barrage of notifications, the dopamine hit of likes, the anxiety of read receipts. The ultimate aim of this architecture is to extinguish unpredictable, autonomous moral judgment and replace it with predictable, uniform conformity. Because this massive, wholesale extraction of our lives happened completely in stealth, totally camouflaged by cool technology and everyday convenience, it completely bypassed democratic oversight. The author doesn't describe this as a political coup, but rather a market-driven coup from above. It's an overthrow of the people's sovereignty that concentrates unprecedented knowledge and power into the hands of a few corporations. Human nature itself has officially been annexed as a commodity to be bought and sold. Which brings us right back to our fundamental human need for a home. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to consider the next time you interact with the screens and sensors that surround you. If the digital future is to be our home, a true place of sanctuary, freedom, and autonomy, who will make it so? Will it be the machines, the corporations, or will it be us? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Stay focused, stay curious, and keep learning.